Hello, hello, hello. It's Therapist Thursday. Come on in the chat. We're so glad to have you all today. Come on in the room. Come on in the room. How y'all doing today? I hope you guys have had an amazing day thus far. And so, again, if you're new here, hi, I'm Kiera Johnson, a local mental health professional in the Mobile area. I'm so glad that I get to continue our conversation on today. And so, we started this about 3 weeks ago, and I am going to be coming on every Thursday to answer your questions around mental health. And so, you guys have been getting in your questions. Thank you guys for your participation. Again, continue to send your questions on in, even if I don't get to them that same week. Of course, we're preparing every Thursday for another episode. And so, don't fret. Send in your questions because we're definitely going to get to them, okay? And so we talked about, what is mental health? We defined that. Last week we talked about what are some signs that your child may be challenged with a certain mental health condition. And so we've really been getting to some good topics already. And so today we have another question. And today we're going to talk about, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed or lost. How do I cope? Right? And I thought this was a perfect question because, hey, we all have those moments where things get a little rough, nothing seems to be going right, we're overwhelmed, we're not sure whether to go left or right, right? And so this is something that I know is common to all of us. And so it's something that we can definitely, get into. And so, if you're in the room, hello. Drop in the chat ways that you find that are helpful to cope when you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling lost and not sure what to do next, right? But we're gonna kind of get into what does it look like to be overwhelmed or lost. So when we think about being overwhelmed, it's feelings of defeat, overload, feeling flooded with information or circumstances or situations that you don't know how to address just yet. You feel defeated and you're not able to manage properly, right? So that's what we're thinking about when we're thinking about being overwhelmed. Same thing with loss. You're unable to find one's way, right? We aren't able to, get our footing, so to speak. Okay, and so first thing we gotta think about is, okay, we have to assess. Y'all know I'm big on assessment. We all need to self-examine, assess, just to make sure we're in tune with how we're really doing, right? And so the first thing we need to do is assess. And so we need to figure out what's going on. Why am I feeling this way? And so some of the things that we can kind of get into would be, am I experiencing a life change, right? Did I just make a new move? Did I just get a new job? Are we expanding the family? Channeling, new territory. And so, do I have a routine in place? Sometimes just merely not having a routine, of course, makes us feel overwhelmed, right? Again, I feel like in every area of our lives, we need to have direction. And when you don't have direction, you honestly don't know what you're doing. And so that can bring about feelings of overwhelmed or feeling lost, right? So those are first things. Did I experience a life change recently? Have I experienced some sort of loss? Have I lost a loved one? Um, that could bring about feelings of overwhelm, learning how to, be without them for the first time, living life without that particular person or even things. Um, we can even, be kind of overwhelmed with quote unquote loss of opportunity. Things we were looking forward to that may have failed through, things like that can definitely bring about overwhelm. Okay. Setbacks. Setbacks can always produce, feelings of being overwhelmed. So we lost that job that we really loved, or some people may have gotten a bad diagnosis or a bad report or something like that, etc. So just a setback of some sort. Um, do I have a lack of support? Right? We all know that we were not created to do life alone. And so if you don't have those supports in place, then you may feel overwhelmed. Especially if we're thinking about single parents, you know. You have multiple kids, you're trying to do all the things on your own, you don't have that village that we know is necessary. We can feel overwhelmed. I don't have a group of friends, a healthy group of friends that I can, call, assist me, be a sounding board, a shoulder to cry on. I don't have these supports in place. And so I feel like I have to carry all these things that, happen in life by myself that can make us feel lost, that can make us feel overwhelmed. Okay. Disruption to routine. Again, we need routine. And so that makes us feel lost, no footing, there's no stability, calmness, or confidence, right? If you don't, as we've always said, if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. And so, and you can't move with confidence if you don't have a plan, right? And we don't want to just be out here willy-nilly just doing anything. We want to have thing we do. Okay. Um, there's an important decision that you must make, right? And we've all been there. More than likely, 9 times out of 10, when it's time to make a decision, for the most part, um, we know what to do or we know what we need to do. But there are things, whether it's ourselves, outside sources, or whatever, that's contending with the decision that we know we need to make, right? Or it's a decision that we need to make that we know is going to change the trajectory of our life. And so it can seem a little nerve wracking to make that decision, right? So that can bring about overwhelm. And these can even be great things, right? So we're thinking about great opportunities, but it can still bring about that feeling of overwhelm, right? Um, and this will also, of course, have us, being flooded with emotions, thoughts, and feelings. Okay. Societal pressure, right? Um, you want to go out for that big opportunity, but maybe the people around you are not supportive, or people are questioning the things that you're doing, or you want to get better, but everything around you is the same or not helpful, or evoking that desire to change. That can cause some overwhelm, and this can also get us in a place where we're contending with what we really want to do versus what we're expected to do. So when we think about even in the family system, um, people have expectations of us, right? And so sometimes those things can be so demanding that um, we can find ourselves feeling overwhelmed by not wanting to disappoint the people that we really care about with their demands that they're asking of us, right? Suppressing emotions. Emotions are not bad things, guys. They're not bad. They're fickle, but they're not bad. And so when you think about your feelings and emotions, we got to think of them as an alarm system, right? When you think of an alarm system or a smoke detector or something like that, it's literally in place to let you know, like, hey, something is on fire or someone is entering your home. You might want to check that out, right? And so we use our feelings and emotions as information, right? We just use it as information, use it as a tool rather than a decision tactic, and so we don't use them to make decisions. We use them to gain more information about what may be going on and what we may be experiencing at that particular time, right? And so it's okay to acknowledge and feel emotions, right? And I think about it like this: like, I get to learn more about myself when I allow myself to identify with the emotion that I may be feeling, right? And I think we should all be open to growing, right? So feel your emotions, don't suppress them. Um, and of course, when you're suppressing your emotions, you're refusing to acknowledge what it is that may be going on for you. And so you're not in the present. And so that can bring about feelings of being overwhelmed, lost, etc. Okay. So this can look like crying without reason. When you're feeling overwhelmed, you could be crying without reason, experiencing a lot of mood swings, withdrawing from those social settings, not interested in your typical hobbies and activities. Of course, like we talked about, a lack of decision making may be in place. You're overwhelmed with simple tasks, right? So the simple things, like just simple everyday tasks, they are overwhelming for you. You may be exhibiting some risky behaviors, right? Going back to that suppression of emotions. Sometimes when some of us, find ourselves not identifying with the emotions that are taking place, we can find ourselves acting out or engaging in activities so we don't have to identify or acknowledge the emotions that we're actually feeling on the inside. Let's see. Irritated by others. So like just highly irritable. Everything is getting on your nerves. You don't want to hear anyone breathe. Don't move, don't touch, like don't bother you. Just very irritable by everything. Key indicator that you're probably overwhelmed. And frustration with self, not excited for the future, so you have nothing to look forward to, or you feel as though you have nothing to look forward to because just everything seems to be going awry and you don't know how to get yourself together. Going through the motions, peer pressure, um still contented with the want to versus what I should do, right? So this is what they can look like. And so when we think about how do we kind of get out of this space, right, which is the second half of our question, it's like, okay, we know what overwhelm looks like. We kind of identify some possible areas that we need to assess to determine why we may be feeling this way. We talked about what it looks like, and so now we get to determine, like, okay, what are some ways that we can deal with these emotions that we're feeling? And so when we think about a coping skill, so it's the ability to manage uncomfortable emotions, right? And just becoming aware of your own emotions. And so ways that we can do that. So of course we have to reflect on our needs, right? So just like we was talking about those things, whether those was life transitions or disruption of routine, what have you, we have to reflect, like, okay, let's get back to the basics, right? When you're feeling overwhelmed, when you feel like you can't, stabilize yourself, you have to go back to the basics. And what do I mean by the basics? Okay, did I eat today? Am I getting enough rest? Right? Do I have a routine in place? Right? Am I aware of what my responsibilities and priorities are at this moment? Right? Um, am I going to work? Right? Am I showing up to work? Are the kids, in place? Am I showing up to class? Whatever those priority things may be for you, but we have to go back to those basics, right? Once you get your basics in place, then of course we can build on top of that. And so foundationally, just go back to the basics. Am I eating, sleeping? Am I moving? Am I getting some exercise in? Is my health okay? Am I doing those just preliminary things that just help me function as a person? Right? We need to start there. If not, okay, now we need to reflect on our needs. Like, what is it that we need at this particular time? Because again, if you've gone through a life transition or a change of routine, then we have to kind of restructure what our routine looks like, and our needs may be different. So those are things we need to start with. Okay. Look for growth opportunities, right? So sometimes we're overwhelmed because our current life and our position in life at the moment is causing us to grow, right? Again, using our emotions as tools, using our emotions to learn more about ourselves. It may just be time for you to quote unquote level up. It's time for you to do it different. It's time for you to go outside the box, right? Okay, you're saying you want that promotion at work, but we're showing up late and we're only doing the bare minimum, right? And now we're frustrated because, oh, I need more pay, or we feel overlooked. And that may not be the case. It's just that your behavior is not lining up with what you desire, right? So now it's time to like look for the growth opportunity, right? Okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed, but why? Maybe it's time for me to move. Maybe it's time for me to grow in a particular area, right? Things to think about. Again, priorities. What are my priorities? Establishing what those are, because everything is not a priority. And I know when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling lost, everything seems important. It feels like everything needs to be done right now, this second, and if not, my life is going to crumble. But I'm here to tell you that is not the case. Some things can wait, right? And when we think about priorities, it's putting balance in those important areas of our life that fits the space and time that you're in. So So when we're thinking about balance, balance is not linear. Balance can look like this. Sometimes balance can look like that, or it can look like this. And it's just based on what's important for that season of life that you're in. Right? So don't feel like you have to put everything has to be equal or something like that. Like, no, like what are my priorities during this season of my life? And then I can prioritize those things accordingly. Right now, I don't have kids, right? So I don't have to worry about kids, but I'm advancing in my career or I'm trying to get my license. And so my business or learning more skills, more tool sets that I can use with my clients, that's important to me, right? So that's going to be a priority for me. For you, of course, some of us got kids, we have spouses and things like that. Of course, God is number one. And so our priorities and the way we spend our time is going to reflect it, right? Self-care, self-care. Yes, our life is not just about us, right? We know that. We're here to be of service to our families, to our community, in the places, that we have influence. That is our job. But if you are not doing those things, like going back to the basics, addressing those priorities, which is yourself as well, then you're not going to be able to walk out all these great things that you have a desire to do. Right. And so self-care is going to be important. Again, going back to those basics. Am I taking care of myself? Do I have everything that I need in place? If not, okay. If I need help with something, am I requesting that help? Am I reaching out for those resources? We have to implement self-care, right? So we can do all these great things that we desire to do. Right? Let's see. So some other coping skills that can be helpful: meditation. So and in this context, coming from a Christian perspective, when we think about meditation, we know we're thinking about scripture, right? So when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling lost, there are several scriptures that we can, turn to for encouragement and reminders that, hey, I may be experiencing this, but this is not what my life is supposed to look like. And so we can run to those things and study them and meditate on them throughout our days to keep us encouraged and to keep us focused on the task at hand throughout the day, right? Mindfulness. And so deep breathing. A lot of times we are overwhelmed, lost, anxiety, can kind of try to creep up. Some of us may even start experiencing like panic attacks and stuff like that. So deep breathing is a great, great tool that you can use because it slows the brain down and it slows your heart rate down. And so deep breathing techniques can definitely be helpful. Okay. Journaling. Journaling is a great, great tool. If you don't have a journal, I suggest that you get one. I know some people don't really like the pen and paper, but pen and paper is pivotal. Even if you want to do voice notes is another way to kind of document or journal your experience with your emotions and your motivations and your behaviors that you're exhibiting at that particular time. Some people even do video. They have videos in their phones where they kind of get all those things out verbally, but you need to have some type of journal where you're able to document how you're feeling and why. What's going on? Am I being triggered by anything? Why is that the case? What is this reminding me of? Like being able to document, and so you can put it on paper and reflect like, okay, that's why I was feeling that way that day. I was triggered by this, and so that contributed to this. And now we have again that information as tool so we can be better and put the proper measures in place for that. Okay. Positive affirmations, which we would get from those scriptures that we were just talking about, right? So these are things that we can of course use to encourage ourselves throughout the day and remind us like, hey, you got this. You were created for greatness, right? And so positive affirmations, reaching out to those loved ones. And so earlier we talked about having that support system. So if you don't have the greatest family relationship or great friendships, that's okay. But I'm sure somewhere in your vicinity there is someone that you either admire or someone that you talk to on a regular basis that may be open to building a stronger relationship for you. Or there may be resources in your community that you can rely on for resource to assist you in some of these areas that you may be struggling with, because we all need support. And when you're in these moments, you definitely need to reach out to someone, because isolation is not going to assist you if you're already feeling overwhelmed and loss, because isolation makes you feel like I'm in this alone, you know, no one cares, or I don't have anyone. And that simply is not the case. We just have to kind of utilize the resources that are already there that we may not be utilizing to our best advantage, right? And so look out for those resources. Distance yourself from unhealthy habits and unhealthy relationships. Now, this is the one, right? And this is where our boundaries are going to have to get intact. Boundaries, it's a buzzword, but it's real. A lot of us are feeling overwhelmed. We're feeling lost. We don't have the confidence that we need. We don't have the tools in place, the routine in place, because we don't have any boundaries in place. Like, we have to have boundaries in all areas of our lives, right? With our time, with our health, with the relationships, the conversation, what we're engaged with on the day to day. All those things are feeding us. And so if we're polluting ourselves with negativity and toxicity, of course we're going to probably continue to feel overwhelmed, especially if we're already in a not so great place ourselves. And so if you continue to feed yourself those things, you're going to continue to feel lost, right? And so releasing yourself from unhealthy habits, unhealthy relationships, right? um and if you see those things in your life, it's probably because you don't have the proper boundaries in place. And so this is where you typically see people pleasing, not doing the things we know we need to do, because for some of us, we may feel like we already don't have a big sense of community. And so we have these relationships in place, even though they're unhealthy, we feel like this is all we have access to. But I would rather have not so many friends that are healthy rather than have all these friends that are toxic, because you're still going without either way, right? So let's address that. Build support systems. Again, if you don't have those supports in place, again, reach out to those resources, reach out to people who may be in the position that you're looking to go toward, to see, what you can do about starting to build your village, because we definitely need community. Okay. And of course, healthy routines, establishing your routine, and seeking support. And so sometimes we get in this phase of feeling overwhelmed, feeling lost, not having a sense of direction for life, on top of not really having those healthy support systems in our lives that we can run to or turn toward. A mental health professional could be helpful, right? So whether that's going to a coach, whether that's going to a therapist or a counselor, these are also things that we can kind of talk about in counseling to, just reflect on, again, what's going on in your life. Have any life transitions taken place? Do you have support in place? Do you have a plan in place? And if not, that's something that we can work on together in that safe space, right? And so, hey, all in all, you have to know when to reach out for help. If you're feeling overwhelmed and you're feeling lost, it's okay. Reach out to support. Reach out to those resources that that you're knowledgeable of, or reach out to a mental health professional, because that's why we're here. We're here to assist you with getting you to where you want to go, right? And so that's what I have for y'all today. And so don't allow, feeling lost, feeling overwhelmed, get you down. Hey, we all have these moments, right? But this is not the end. This is not your destiny, right? This is not the end. This is just for a moment. But you have people like myself, and I'm sure others that surround you, that are willing to assist you and get you back on your feet. And so be encouraged. You got this. You got this. Everything that you need is already on the inside of you, right? We just have to give it some direction, right? We just got to give it some direction. And so I hope and pray that this information was helpful to you today. Kind of gave you some ideas of some different coping skills that you can start using. Again, share this with someone who you know needs community, right? They may not be ready to go to a counselor. They may not have the resource. But hey, this is the beauty of social media. Share this information with someone that may need it, that may be helpful to them. And, follow our social media so they can stay up to date. We also have a YouTube channel, the Kiera J channel. And so if you want to watch all of our Therapist Thursday episodes in one place, check out our YouTube, where you can find all our videos in one place. I thank you guys for chatting with me today. Again, if you have some different coping skills that we didn't mention today that are helpful to you, drop them in the chat of this video. And so you can also assist me with helping our community as well. I love you guys. And hey, I will see you next Thursday. Y'all have a good day.